Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of my High Stakes Pot Limit Omaha PokerCast. My name is Joeingram1, aka Chicago Joey, on the 2+2 Poker Forums. We took a week off because the hands posted there really weren't too many, so we took a week off, and now this week we are back with a bunch of fun hands to discuss. If you want to know when each new episode is put up, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, or you can follow me on Twitter at Joeingram1. For anyone unfamiliar with this podcast, it is where I go over pot limit Omaha hands played predominantly on PokerStars that are posted each week on the 2+2 Poker Forums in the high stakes thread. Also, some of the hands are posted in the PLO subsection on 2+2. And some hands are just sent to me by different regulars. So basically I will be discussing the hands, the plays made, who some of the people are, and this is something that I ideally would like to do each week, provided there's enough action, but if not, then I'll for sure be doing it once every 2 weeks. On this week's episode, we have some very fun hands for you. So for anyone that follows the high stakes action on PokerStars, right now with the changes that they made, 2550 sometimes runs, not too often, 5100 never runs, and 1020 Zoom and the 1020 deep games seem to be, I guess, the ones with the most action. And in this episode, we have some super exciting, really interesting deep hands that I think you guys are going to enjoy looking at. Some of the players featured this week, actually, there's one guy that's really featured this week on most of the hands, and you'll see why, because it's actually a friend of the podcast, Krmont, who, if you've watched the latest episodes, we've suspected he's playing on drugs. He posted that he isn't playing on drugs. Now, as you know, when people post on the internet, they don't always tell the truth, so we're not sure. But from some of the hands you see today, you're going to be confused whether Krmont is a top-tier player or if he is one of the best players. So just stay tuned, you'll see. We have some interesting hands. He plays with the legendary Odd Oddson, one of the best IMO, in my opinion, 6-max pot limit Omaha players playing online right now. He plays a couple hands, and to nobody's surprise, he's going to run like himself, which means he runs pretty good. We're also going to get our first glimpse at my #1 arch rival in the history of poker, and his name is Yousseffahmed, and I will tell you all about him very, very shortly. And we're also going to get to meet someone who hasn't been featured on the PokerCast at all yet. Goes by the name of Lottie. He is from, I believe, the Netherlands. I think that's where he's originally from, but he is one of he's a long-time mid-stakes, high-stakes player, always had a sick win rate, plays really well, really aggressive, plays anyone. I mean, he's definitely one of the better players, and we're going to see a couple interesting hands he plays with Krmont this episode, so yeah, I think you're going to enjoy yourselves. Also in the podcast, we're going to have a throwback hand featuring Ziigmund and Patrick Antonious, I saw posted in the high stakes thread. And in this hand, they're playing 501K, and they play a $400,000 pot with, well, we'll see. It's a very interesting hand, and I'm not quite sure that, yeah, I don't know, man. It's an interesting hand, but that's going to be towards the end of the podcast. I'm gonna give you guys one of my better stories, and that is, since we took 1 week off, this story is essentially one of the leading factors on how I ended up losing $120,000 in a day, and how I basically lost like $500,000 in a month. So, but this specific story is the cause. I mean, it might be a little bit much to blame this whole entire story on the reason that all happened, but once I tell you the story, you will understand that there was a good chance this was a very big culprit for the story. So yeah, let's get into the hands. So this first hand up here is going to feature our friend Yousseffahmed, and also we're going to get to meet Yousseffahmed. So let me tell you guys about this guy, Yousseffahmed. Okay, our story starts long ago. Let me think back. Maybe 2.5 years ago, maybe 3.5 years ago. I can't quite remember. But it was the second time I was doing my Supernova Elite run, which meant I was playing. I think I played the 500,000 hands in 1 month, and then the month before I played a couple 100,000 hands. I don't quite remember that month. But this was the first time I met a player named Yousseffahmed from Australia. Now, to say this guy played bad would be an understatement, because the guy played fucking terrible. He was so bad. But at this time, there was a website, for anyone that's new to poker, there was a website called Poker Table Ratings, where you could put in any username, search, and that would show how much they're up, how much they're down for every game stake, and it would show their stats, and it was awesome. It was such a great site. But Yousseffahmed's win rate on this website was ridiculous. He had like the highest win rate, and it was a lot of hands. So people, myself, started posting in the PLO forums, like, who is this guy Yousseffahmed? Who is he? Is he a cheater? Like, how is he winning so much? He plays so bad. And no one could really figure it out. But this guy terrorized my life for parts of November that year, for all of December. This guy fucking, oh my God, he played so bad. Played so bad. Probably plays still so bad. You're going to see this hand. Take a guess while I'm telling the story. You'll see Isildur's hand right there. Take a guess what Yousseffahmed has here. I'm getting excited talking about this. So he terrorized my life December. January I started moving up a bit higher stakes, but I also sometimes just worked in smaller 2, 4, 3, 6 where he was playing. Terrorized my life February. March, I mean, I was winning a lot of money, but anytime I play with this fucking guy, it just didn't make sense to me. And it actually at one point led me to make this blog post titled Never Play vs. Yousseffahmed, where I basically talked a bunch of shit. And then I also made this blog post, didn't play with Youssef today, thank God. So this was from May 8, 2012 and May 7, 2012. So as you can see, I didn't like him. I mean, he was whatever. At some point in time, Youssef found 2+2 in the PLO forums, and he started posting. And now, when he started posting, everyone really kind of liked him, except me. I hated him because these guys liked him because they probably up money against him because he played so bad. But he posted a graph that essentially showed that he ran like 300 buy-ins above EV, which is crazy. I think it might have been more, and this was all at like mid stakes. And in the chat, me and him would chat to each other, and I was telling him that I was going to move to Australia soon, and that when I came to Australia, I was actually moving to Sydney, and I guess he said he lived in Sydney, and I told him if I saw him, I would fucking kill him. Now I can't tell you what exactly would have happened had I saw him, but fast forward a couple months later, and I'm living in Sydney, Australia, and I asked Youssef, let's meet up. Let's meet up. I want to stab you. Let's meet up. Now, as you may guess, Youssef declined this invite, and I have to tell you, if he hadn't declined the invite, I might be in a Australian jail right now, because the amount of, like, the voodoo doll of me that he had in his house, and what he would do to me, and he would just, we need to have a throwback Yousseffahmed podcast, because I just need to show some of these hands how he used to play. But it was a bad thing, actually, because I used to just say, you play so fucking bad, you're so bad, eventually you're going to stop running so good. And guys, guess what? He stopped running so good. And then he had a goals thread on 2+2, and he'd post, like, what's happening, why am I running, yeah, crying like a little fucking bitch. And like, what do you expect to happen? You're so fucking, you play terrible. You know, you play really bad. What do you expect to happen? And I think at some point he kind of started to play a bit regular, and I suggested to him that maybe he should go back to his, his dumb style that made him all that money. But yeah, and the funny thing that happened, by funny I mean awesome, is that when I moved to Australia and I started playing him, guess who started winning all the hands? For maybe, I think till I stopped playing on PokerStars against him, I 10-20 just crushed him. I'm pretty sure I'm up money against him now. But Yousseffahmed, my arch rival at poker, I cannot wait to meet him also one day. I think we're gonna meet one day, and I don't have any ill will towards him anymore because his graph is enough ill will for me to deal with. So let's get into the hand. So this hand was posted by Yousseffahmed in the Beats Brags and Variance thread on 2+2, which basically people post hands where they lose ridiculously or they win ridiculously. It's just like a place to post ridiculous hands, I guess. And so Yousseffahmed min raises the button, and they're really deep. These hands we're going to have today. There's a lot of 10-20 deep hands, which I think are actually more interesting than most 5100 hands that are standard stack sizes. But some people just get romanticized about the 5100, and when they see a 10-20 hand, they just like, oh, 10-20. Like, who has time for 10-20? Who has time to read a 10-20 hand? But actually, some of the hands we're going to be talking about here, I think, are going to be fairly interesting. So this hand, Yousseffahmed 3 bets, double suited queens, queen, 8-6, and they're 345 big blinds deep effective. Yousseffahmed has 1,000 big blinds. I would 3-bet any hand in Yousseffahmed's spot here because clearly, when you're running good at a table, you just need to attack. So he flops trip 8s, and he continuation bets. Yousseffahmed makes a very small raise, and Yousseffahmed calls, which looks good so far. The turn is the 4 of spades. Backdoor flush draw gets up there. I don't think that's very relevant. Yousseffahmed checks. Youssef bets about 70-ish% pot, and once again, I think Yousseffahmed has a fairly easy call. And now this hand, there's not really too much to talk about, because on the river, Yousseffahmed checks, Yousseffahmed checks. Now, if you guessed Yousseffahmed showed up with 10-8, you would be correct. He has the essential second nuts full house, and when he checks back here, he's scared of Yousseffahmed. I mean, how good does Yousseffahmed run if people are checking back 10-8 here? That's the question you gotta ask yourself. But lately in this thread on 2+2, the BBD thread, people have been posting hands where they check back like. They check back 10-8 here, and the other guy has pocket 10s. Like people are getting scared of everyone else having the nuts now. Like the nuts. Like in this spot, 10-8, pretty nutty hand. But yeah, so I think his check backs, obviously, it's completely terrible, and it looks like Yousseffahmed has progressed quite well as a PLO player, and I'm happy to have him back. So let's get into some actual hands here. This hand is a hand played by Yousseffahmed. We're going to use it on the replayer here. I'm not sure if anyone likes the replayer or not. I'm guessing you do. It's kind of fun. This hand is a 10-20 deep hand. We have it between this new guy who seems to be at the tables. I think I might have seen him a long time ago. Dun Fi. I feel like I've seen him a long time ago, but I posted on Twitter like who is his multi, like who's playing his account. Like who's on the account, because when like a random person shows up and starts playing all the deep tables and playing pretty well in big stack sizes, you just assume it's someone else playing on the account. So it's probably a shared account, whatever. What's it matter anymore? So he opens the button, Youssef flats, and no dice baby flats. The flop is King Jack 8. So no dice baby continuation bets, 516 into 784. They're about $6,000 deep at 10-20. Dun Fi calls, Youssef check calls. When he check calls here, I think he's a weird guy, really weird guy. You never know what he could have, to be honest with you. Any type of straight draw, any type of top and bottom pair, backdoor flush draws, some kind of ace king 10, some type of gut shot, open-ended ish hand like that. So might have a set, who knows? Really weird guy. So anyways, the turn to 4 diamonds, bringing the backdoor flush draw. He checks. No dice baby bets 1,200, and Youssef check calls. The river's a king, and it goes check, check. And now we're going to look at the hands they show down. So No Dice Baby wins with a pair of 8s. And for anyone that doesn't know No Dice Baby, he's a regular who runs fucking. He's the guys that really win a lot of money at 25.50. These guys run so good. Like there's a couple of them that just run amazing, and I just have to praise them because No Dice Baby, I would consider one of these guys. So when we look at the hand, Youssef flops a wrap, and I think they're so deep that check call is basically the only option. No Dice Baby, when he 3-bets that hand, I think everything's fine pre-flop by both players. He c-bets, he has the bad end of a wrap, which I'm not too sure how much money he'll end up losing on a 10 or a 9 when he makes a bad straight. But he'll probably just, if the turn was a 10, he'd probably just check back and then fold to a river bet because I don't know, he sees the cards, he just knows. But I think the flop's fine, pretty good. I mean, I think he has to c-bet here. And he could check back, but I think c-betting's not just fine. He gets a lot of folds from Youssef's range here is going to be extremely wide. I don't want to talk about range, but the turn, he picks up a backdoor flush draw. I think his bet's fine again. Youssef calls. When he check calls, the problem is on a lot of rivers when he hits, is he going to lead in a diamond? Is he going to diamond and he makes a straight? He's going to check. I just think that I don't necessarily think you can fold the hand when he bets 1,200 and 1,800, but I think the more interesting spot's the river. I guess that's kind of debatable. The turn, no, I think the most interesting spot on No Dice Baby is the river because he has some showdown, but I guess he doesn't. He probably expects Youssef to not fold often, which Youssef doesn't like to fold, and he probably also expects that Youssef doesn't think that No Dice would bet aces, queens, or an ace-jack type of hand for value here. So when No Dice bets, he's essentially betting trips plus, meaning 3 kings plus. So he might expect Youssef to not fold some type of jack if he has a jack, which he most likely has a jack. And if he doesn't have a jack, I don't know, it's really hard. Like the only hand No Dice beats that, I don't know, I think he, So if No Dice does bluff the river, because he would be bluffing the river if he bet here, I would expect Youssef to fold a jack often enough here. But does he need to bluff? I think that it's really hard for Youssef to have a hand here that doesn't beat a pair of 8s, like some type of jack in it, some type of 8 in it with a better kicker. So I think that I don't know. It's an interesting hand. I like to give answers now because I know people said they liked it when I made a decision one way or another, but I don't actually know if I think No Dice should be betting the river or not. But he checks back, he wins the hand, and let's get on to the next hand here. So this next, I don't even want to talk about this hand anymore. It's between Ziigmund and this guy used to play a long time ago with MOP, who played a lot like 3-6, 2-4. Then he moved up to 5-10, played a lot of 5-10. He was awesome. And he's kept moving up, kept gradually winning, crushing. So, yeah, he's a fucking beast. But, yeah, I don't know what to talk about the hand. So, now we're going to get into some of the biggest hands of the week. Now, this hand is by the legendary Krmont. He's becoming legendary on this podcast because without him, you're going to see, we wouldn't, the podcast might be over if Krmont stopped playing. If he looks like he's living in Buenos Aires, if he moves from Buenos, don't move. I'll pay your rent, Krmont. I'll pay it. I promise, because we want to see these hands. These hands are fun. These hands are awesome. And I don't know if he's on drugs anymore, but I suspect he is. Let's get into this hand. Maybe lame to post one of your hands. This is certainly the biggest 10-20 pot I've ever played. I can promise you guys, this is not lame to post a pot where you start off with 1,170 big blinds effective and it all goes all in. No, that's a worthy hand to post. Now this hand is played between him and Odd Odson. Odd Odson is, as I mentioned before, anyone listening to this podcast probably knows who he is. He's a guy who worked his way up from small stakes 2-4. I guess that's small stakes, medium stakes. He took a bunch of shots, failed, went back down, grinded it all back, and eventually one of his shots broke through, and then he turned into one of the biggest online PLO beasts that ever existed. And yeah, so this hand is fun. It's really fun. So they're, like I said, they're super deep. They're $23,000 deep at 1020. This is like a live hand. Odson opens for pot with 10-10, 6-7, and can you see the cards at the bottom? Looks like you can. Yep. And Krmont 3-bets ace, ace, king 4 with ace, king of diamonds, which from the big blind, I mean, I don't play too much 1200 big blind effective PLO, but Krmont doesn't like to call with aces ever, so I think he's always going to 3-bet this hand. And he probably should 3-bet the hand. I mean, it's just like playing 1200 big blinds deep out of position against Odd Odson, who never folds anything. It's just, I can't imagine it's going to be too fun and too profitable. But the flop is queen 10-2. Now, I exchanged a couple messages with 2+2 PLO regular I've been playing a long time with, and he originally sent me this hand because I didn't see it, and he told me that he thought there were 3 better lines that Krmont could take with this hand on the flop, as opposed to the getting in, you know, 1100 and fucking Jesus Christ, 1150 big blind on the flop with an overpair, a gutter, and then a flush draw. So I thought about it for a while, and I guess we're gonna talk about it now. So Krmont decides to bet pot, and I feel like from what the hands I've been seeing, Krmont likes to bet pot. He likes to bet pot in different spots, and I think I have an idea of the reasons why he might like to bet pot in some spots. But so if he's going to be betting pot as a continuation bet when he 3-bets in situations, this is probably a hand he should be betting pot with, because it's near the top of his range. And let's talk about range. I don't want to talk about ranges anymore. I hate the fucking word range. I don't want to use it on a podcast. But yeah, I mean, if he's going to be betting pot as his bet size here for continuation bets, he should probably bet with this hand. So I think what my friend was saying is that he thinks that so the different lines he could take. He could check call, check raise, bet 3-bet, bet call. Now, I mean, you can never go wrong. I think I don't know, you know, I don't know without any tracking site, we don't know how much money Krmont might be up or down this month or this year. If I had to suspect if he was up or down, sadly I would suspect he's down. I wish he was up $1 million because I want to see Krmont win, but I think he's down. And when you're down money, you're excited. When he see bets and odds and pots you here, you're excited because you're like, I've got the nut flush draw, I've got aces, I've got a gut shot. Let's play. Let's play a $47,000 pot 10-20. Like, you get excited. In situations like this, for me, I would get excited. Like, fuck yeah, how bad can you be? You got the nut flush draw, right? What is Odd Odson getting in $22,000 here with a set of queens, set of tens, queen 10? You know, sometimes Odson gets it in with like a queen of diamonds, queen jack, king, like a hand that I think Krmont has super crushed, which might not be true, but I think he would pot. It'd be interesting to see what Odson would do here with a hand like king, jack, queen, like a wrap or a open-ended straight draw with top pair with a queen high flush draw. I think he'd play it this similar way, but that might not be true. Now, when we think about what hands Odson would pop this flop with, if that hand's not in it, then this is probably a hand that. But so if Krmont continuation bets here, and then he gets potted 26.52, they still have, holy shit, they still have $21,000 behind. For fuck's sake! Wow, my God. So if he calls, he's going to be out of position. The turn's a diamond. Wow, man. I'm curious what people think about this hand because I think this hand's kind of awesome. And this is just the kind of crazy shit that happens when you're $23,000 deep at 1020. So this is going to be another hand where, I mean, I'm getting it in here if I'm Krmont. I'm down a lot of money. I'm getting it in here. But I definitely can see, I don't really see, I mean, if he calls the $2,000 raise on the flop, he's out of position. It's just going to be really weird to play some turns. Like, if the turn's like a 3 through 7, does he check call? And then, if he, then on the river, what happens? So, in Krmont's position here, I would probably gamble it up. I would be sad that I'm up against Oddson, who doesn't lose. But, as we see in the hand, Oddson had a set of 10s, and Krmont hit a straight on the river, so he won the hand. There you go. One more end. I think this is officially the biggest pot of the week here. Let's see if we can get it in this hand here. How do we get down there? Let me zoom out. I got the zoom in on here. All right, so we're going to zoom out for this one hand. So this is between Krmont, once again, and Oddson. It's at 25.50 deep. Or no, this is regular. This is so weird. This is what happens with deep. This is why 25.50 probably doesn't run. So Jeans has 30 big blinds. Jeans 89. Very, very legendary PLO player as well. Up a lot of money. I think he lost a lot of money last year. Then the Chosen One, who I can't quite remember much about. But they have 30 big blinds, and Krmont and Oddson have 515 big blinds. It's fucking ridiculous. But so PokerStars wants it. So Krmont 3-bets the button with King, Queen, Queen 10 against the short stack. Looks good. Oddson cold 4-bets. Ace 10, Jack 8, double suited, which I think is just going to end up leading to getting in some trouble. But Krmont's going to be 3-betting a lot of hands here. He might be 3-betting less hands because there's a short stack. So I'd expect you to have some stronger hands. He'd have a stronger whatever. And so Oddson through cold 4-bets. Krmont calls. Oddson, man, this is the life. I mean, he said he lost the last hand, but there's some other hands I omitted from this podcast where it must be nice, So he flops the nuts, and he flops the nuts while Krmont flops backdoor, flush draw, and a wrap. But Oddson's hand looks like aces here, so now he can check back here, but I think he can just bet the flop and expect Oddson to fold enough. And even if Oddson calls, he's got a hand with a lot of equity. So he bets 1,700, Oddson calls, and the turns, the 3 of diamonds, doesn't really improve his hand, but he still has an overpair. So he decides to pot here. Now, I don't see why you'd bet pot here because I don't necessarily think he should check back here. And I don't necessarily think he's going to get check raised very often here. So I think he can I don't know why he's betting pot. I mean, I think you can bet the turn a normal size, and then if you want to turn your hand into a bluff on the river, you can choose to, or you can make your hand. I mean, there's probably some merit for just checking back the turn, but I don't think there's a ton of merit. I sometimes might not. But when you're 500 big blinds deep, I mean, this decisions, every decision becomes much more important because what happens is you end up getting in, $24,000 on this turn when you have, you have queens and a straight draw. So it is that blocker to 8-10. I mean, I guess Oddson's only going to check raise at 8-10, and if he has a 10, it's kind of hard to have 8-10. There's not many 8-10s. Oddson would 4-bet here, not too many combos. So I don't mind the bet on the turn because I really don't expect to ever get check raised here in his spot, but I don't think I'd bet pot. But he chooses to bet pot. Oddson's like, cha-ching! Check them all in and calls, wins the hand. And okay, so now we're going to get into a hand played by a top tier player. And when you're looking at the hand, you might think the top tier player is the fish 7-7, and this hand, the top tier player is actually Krmont 22. So the fish 77, I'm guessing, it's like a meta name like the fish. You think he's a fish, but is he a fish? No. He's got 800 big blinds, so I've never heard of him before. So, yeah. Youssef raises under the gun. Youssef, not a friend of the podcast. Hated guy of the podcast. Hate him. I guess we don't hate him anymore. We can't. Do we hate him? I probably still hate him. Yeah. I don't like him. Why didn't he just meet up with me when I was in Sydney? Like, yo, I live downtown. I live in the CBD. Just come over. Let's hang out. I told him I'd come to the basement where he plays poker at his parents' house, and he didn't want me to. I just don't understand. But the fish 3-bets. The fish. What a sick name. The fish 3-bets with ace, queen, 10, 2, 1 suit, which aggressive 3-bet, but 200 big blinds deep with Youssef. You can 3-bet any hand essentially in position. Now, this is where the hand gets interesting. Krmont, 261 big blinds deep at 1020 deep, decides to 4-bet the Jack 5 7 3 double suited. Now, I think this is a fold, but he 4-bets and the fish calls on the flop. Now, I don't think this is a good flop for Krmont. But when you're on cocaine, when you're on ketamine, when you're doing ecstasy a lot, when you're having sex with hookers and you guys are doing drugs together, your fucking brain sees things that, I mean, I've been there. Your brain, you see things. You're like, Jack 5 7 3. I gotta get money in. I gotta put money in the fucking hand. You start freaking out. You're twitching. You're fucking, shit happens. I think this is one of those times. So Krmont flops 3 5s. He flops a bottom straight draw. What that's called? A bottom gutter, a bad gutter, a terrible straight draw. Flops a terrible straight draw, middle pair, a backdoor diamond draw, a backdoor 7-9 flush draw. He decides this is a good flop to get it in. So he goes ahead, gets it in against the fish. The fish has top pair nut flush draw and 3 overs against like a queen 7 or 6 7 or whatever, or just queen 7, 6 7. He'd have 2 as well. So the turn he makes the flush, and Krmont has 10%. So yeah, I think this is a really bad play by Krmont. 22. Fair. This isn't the first time he might make a questionable play. So going crazy in a single race pot going wrong. This is between someone I mentioned previously, Lottie, who's been a long-time regular at mid-stakes and 10-20. He doesn't really never really played too much 20 by 50 plus. I think he said he ran bad in those shots, but always a battler, played anyone. I played him a lot of heads up so much. There'd be like times my confidence was good, and I'd be like, all right, we'll start some games at Lottie. There was never a time in my life I said the phrase, let's play some games at Lottie, and the end result was good. Never, like ever. So, in this hand, there are 270 big blinds deep, which you guys love these deep hands, they're so fun. Lottie raises under the gun with the very pretty ace, king, jack. Krmont defends 3 4 6 7, which is good. The flop, Lottie flops, top set, and Krmont check raise. Like, what are you doing, Krmont? So Krmont check raises here. I don't think you should be check raise bluffing some hands here. I don't think this is one of the hands, but no, why not? So Lottie, man, just Lottie, another one of those guys. Runs really well too. Clicks it back. Krmont calls. And the turn's actually the second best card for Krmont. I guess a club, 3 clubs would be. He has 3 clubs. I think it's offsuit 3, besides obviously making it straight, as the best card, because now he can, like Lottie, when Lottie clicks it back here, min re-raises, meaning I think he'll have aces, he'll have ace jack, he'll have some straight draws, he'll have some bluffs, he'll have some pure bluffs too, because getting check raised and ace high flops, like I said in a previous podcast, usually doesn't mean too much. Like, It's not a flop you'd expect to get check raised on as the pre-flop raiser. So Krmont leads the 3, trying to represent 4-5 here, which I don't think is bad. Once you play the flop like that, I don't think it's bad to bluff the turn. But on the river, he decides to go all in for about pot on the 9. Now, I guess Lottie might turn he might turn like a straight draw, like a king, queen, something, king, king, queen hand. He decided to re-raise on the flop and turn a diamond draw. Then he might fold in the river. But I'm not sure if he folds often enough. I mean, I also think you can think about Lottie's call on the turn. He could raise all in, but he has then a flush draw. Actually, probably just, he knows Krmont's psycho, so probably just wants to give Krmont a chance to bluff. And then on the river, yeah, I don't like the bet. I don't like the bet at all. But he makes the bet, and he loses a $10,000 pot. So let's get into, what do we got here? Taking a break from the Krmont show. We got a lot of, I mean, really, I don't want to feature one person in the podcast, but we have so many fun hands behind this week. But this hand, I don't know if we introduced a Verb Oasis to the podcast. Verb Oasis, I played some live poker with him, actually. Played some 5100 at Bellagio about 2 summers ago, I think. And yeah, I went there. I didn't really play too much live. I was in Vegas love. And by that I mean a girl I knew, a woman. I flew her in to visit me a couple times, and we kind of spent a lot of time together. And one time when she was sleeping, I decided that I wanted to go play Bobby's Room. And there was a list, so I started playing 5100, and then eventually I got into Bobby's Room. That's another story for another time. That was my only time ever playing there. But I sat down at this table, and there was another guy who blogs on Look at Poker, Eric Liu there, Xiao Zhang, some other guy, and then to my right were these 2 younger guys. And they turned out to be AZ and Baller, who hates me now because he thinks I called him something in the chat, which I didn't mean. I was tilted. Then he called me some funny names. And if I see him again, we're going to have a conversation. And also Verb Oasis, who is the Brazilian. He's like a fucking Brazilian playboy, this guy, man. He's like, how would I describe him? He's like the Justin Timberlake of Brazilian poker. He's like, slick guy, kind of looks American, well-spoken, well-dressed, seems to be popular, has a lot of Twitter followers. I think I saw some Instagram photos. Looks like he has a fairly attractive Brazilian girlfriend. I mean, he's got a lot of money. He never loses at poker. He runs really well. I mean, I've never wanted to be Brazilian, but if I was going to be a Brazilian, it wouldn't be Urubu, who, as we know, is a degenerate, probably drug addict. There's something wrong with being a drug addict. But I'd rather be Verb Oasis, the Justin Timberlake of Brazil. So in this hand, Justin, aka Verb, plays a hand against fake Neil Channing, who's not actually Neil Channing. It's some guy apparently who plays as N. Channing. Seems weird, but played a lot with him fairly well. Plays pretty well. This looks to be at 1020 deep as well. Okay, hit a pause real quick to get rid of this cough kind of, but I think it's all there. So this hand, single raise pot at 1020. I'm not sure if this was a deep table or not. I don't think so. So Channing c-bets, Verb calls, the turn 8. Channing bets, Verb pots, Channing calls. This hand's sick. So the river is a 7. Channing checks, Verb goes all in, Channing calls. Now this is sick because Channing has ace-8, which seems crazy because he probably should just go all in on the turn. I don't actually know why he doesn't go all in on the turn. I'm pretty sure Verb's calling. Verb flops a 9-9 flush draw with backdoor straight draws. He turns a backdoor straight draw. He turns like a backdoor, like overwrap with no pair and 9-9 flush draw. So when I think Neil, whatever, the fake Neil Channing is probably going to be continuation making this flop fairly high, and he's probably going to be betting this turn with all his aces, and he'll probably have to bet fold some of those aces. So I think Verb's play is kind of cool, and I don't know what's happening on the turn. I don't know why Neil fake Channing's just calling when he should probably just get all in. I don't think Verve's potting the turn with an all-out bluff. And then on the river, you know, Verve's basically representing like ace-8, set of 8s, low played set of 7s, some ace-7s maybe. And on the river, it looks like Channing's hand. I mean, it looks like Channing's hand to draw, but Verve has all the blockers to like the straight draw, so it looks like Channing might have like an ace, queen, king, something like that type of hand with maybe a flush draw too. Probably a flush draw actually. I think Channing would get along with that hand too, though. I don't think he would just call. So it actually kind of looks like Channing's hand is exactly what Verve has. Straight draw with no showdown. That he didn't want to get all in the turn. So I'd probably bet if I'm going to pot the turn here in Verve's spot, I'm probably going to bluff the river. And yeah, just thought it was interesting that fake Channing called with, or just something called the turn with ace-8. I don't know what's going on. I really don't like that play. This next hand is really, really the sexiest hand of the week. Very sexy hand. It's between Ding Ding Ding, Krmont 22, and Ship It for the win 911. I don't know who he is. I don't remember him either. So they're $6,000 deep at 1020 deep. Krmont raises Ship It for the win, 3 bets in position. Krmont calls. The flop 9-6-4 with clubs. Krmont check. Doesn't look like he check pots, but he check raises. And Ship It FTW calls. The turn brings the ace of diamonds. Da, da, da. Krmont checks. Ship It bets pretty much pot essentially, going all in. And Krmont check raises and Ship It calls. Now look what they have. This is fun. Krmont has top set with no flush draw. Sick. And the other guy has a low rep. So this hand's really sexy because Krmont flops. So he slow plays pre-flop with his aces, 600 or 300 big blinds deep, which I think, you know, you don't always have to 4-bet aces here. I think I 4-bet aces all the time, and you should too, but not all the time. Not if you're really deep sometimes. So Krmont he doesn't 4-bet, and I think that's fine. On the flop, he flops in the flush draw and top 2 pair, which is obviously like boner alert for him. If he's on coke, he might not get a boner because sometimes that doesn't happen. But he check raises, not pot, and Ship It calls, which I think when this flop, C betting's fine. When he calls I guess he expects Krmont to be check raising the flop with a bluff hand, that he's not going to continue on the turn, because on the turn, when the turn misses Ship It, Krmont's the kind of guy that doesn't want to give up, so he's probably going to be betting a lot, and Ship It's probably going to have to fold. Because what happens if he makes his hand on the club? Or sometimes I think he has like a reverse implied odds hand where Krmont check raises like a better wrap. So Ship It's, you know, drawing pretty slim, and when he makes his hand, he's going to lose a big pot. Or when he makes his hand, it's not going to be the nuts as well, so sometimes he might not even get paid off. Krmont did have like a value-ish type of hand. Yeah, maybe that makes sense. But the turn is cool because the turn makes him the nuts, and Krmont checks. Now Ship It, I guess Ship It is thinking that Krmont's gonna check raise the flop with enough bluff-ish type of hands, like semi-bluff type hand, and then give up on some turns. So he probably thinks Krmont's giving up on this turn, and with the hand he has, he probably should bet here. But Krmont just happened to pwn him up with the nuts. And I think he could check back the turn. Definitely merit. I mean, you don't have anything, and you're going to get all in when you get called. And when you get called, you're in terrible shape. So I think there's some merit, but then again, you probably want to be betting the turn with some hands here, with enough hands here in Ship It spots. So this is probably one of the hands. Probably could bet. Yeah, Krmont pwned it up. So this hand, we have someone, I know he listens to the podcast. He's living in Colombia right now. The last I heard about, he was having some language issues communicating with the women down there. He told me he played poker, and they didn't know. You know, people, foreign girls probably don't know what poker is, so I guess there was some sort of problem. But yeah, that guy is D to the MFI. D to the MFI. What's that mean? Down to the mother. D to the MFI. Down. Dope. Big dick. Big dick to them. Dick to them. Dope to them. Dope to them. Motherfucker. I don't know. What's your name mean, bro? I don't know what it means. But anyways, he is probably like, what did I say about him? I don't quite remember where he came from. I don't remember actually ever playing with him, but I know he like showed up at 5'10". I think he's a heads-up player. And I remember seeing him in a video with Isil made, where he's playing like 2-4, 3-6, or playing 5'10" heads up against him, and he played like 100% of his hands. And he seemed pretty tough. And he was definitely winning. And it seemed like he rapidly moved up stakes from 5'10", 10, 20, 20, 50, 100. And he started working in some 6-max games as well. But I don't actually know his origin story. I don't know if he played No Limit before, but he played PLO extremely well from what I've seen. And I think he's like, if I was going to say like, you know, if I was going to give out like awards, like which regular would I most like to do hallucinogens with in a very pretty setting for a couple hours and talk life, Krmont 22, obviously, because that'd be amazing. You know, which regular is like the, I think, up-and-comer who has potential to be like the next Phil Galfond. You know, D to the MFI is probably a guy I could see doing something like that, where he just has really consistent results and, you know, kind of crushes kind of quietly. It seems like he posts sometimes on 2+2, but seems like a quiet type of guy. Just goes about his business, works hard, and wins a lot of money. So obviously we see he likes to battle because he's playing Otson in his hand at 5100 heads up. Now I don't claim to be a heads up player or claim to know much about heads up, but I thought this hand was interesting. So Otson D to the MFI limps the button, which I don't know about limping button strategies at heads up, so I can't comment on that. But Otson raises with Ace King 10-9, one suit. D to the MFI calls Queen 6 4 5, 3 hearts. On the flop, Otson checks D to the MFI pots with a middle pair and a straight draw. Otson check raises with a bunch of backdoors, backdoor straight draw, backdoor flush draw, and 4 overs. So D to the MFI calls with his hand. I think his hand calls good. Odson's check raise, I think, is debatable. And then on the turn, Otson turns like the nuts. He turns the backdoor flush draw and straight draw, and he pots D to the MFI, makes the nuts get in. You know, I don't really want to talk about this hand. I just want to introduce D to the MFI to the podcast listeners because I think he's an up and comer. So I want people to get a chance to see a hand with him. Another 2+2 regular, of course, and yeah, he wins. And look, I mean, he wins one. I thought he won both, but he wins one. So anyone that can win half a pot versus Otson, definitely worthy of talking about. So we're about the 45, 48 minute mark here. Let's get into a hand here. One more hand. So Krmont, you know, this guy played a lot of interesting hands this week. I mean, like I said, I want to keep showing him, but he played a lot of interesting hands. So he opens under the gun. They're 250 big blinds effective deep here. We'll set the table. You make me rich, massive bum hunter. I know he posts on 2+2. I think I know who he is. But I think I like him on 2+2, but I definitely don't like him on PokerStars. Fucking bum hunter. I don't like him. But I think I know I like him on 2+2. Eden 1869, I think. I remember Eden. That's some type of tier. Can't remember which tier. Some type of tier. And Skittleboy, Andreas, owner over at nutblocker.com, PLO community, and Tapanista, post as Go Get a Real Job on 2+2. He's featured a couple hands. Another good player, very aggressive. He's winning a lot of money now. He keeps posting graphs and sending me the graphs on Skype, making me sad. So this hand, Krmont opens under the gun with ace, king, 9, 10 with king, 10 of diamonds, and Lottie 3-bets with 3, 4, 6, 3, 4, 6, 9 double suited. They're in position, you know, whatever. Like I said, there's never bad to 3-bet anything in position 250 big blinds deep. Literally, you can 3-bet any hand. So Eden overcalls, Tapanista calls from the big blind, and Krmont, you can't see its offspring. Krmont 4-bets with this hand. He 4-bets this hand, most likely going to play this hand 4-way out of position. Now, I think this is bad. I think this is high variance play. Now, I think a lot of these calls probably bad too, because Eden's probably going to call and Tapanista's probably going to call, and I just think it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's bad. I think it's bad. It's just so high variance. It just seems bad. So Krmont flops like one of the better hands for his flop, top pair with no backdoors. Backdoor straight draw, backdoor quad draw. And Lottie flops like the nuts, a wrap, I don't know, open and straight draw, bottom pair, and a 6-5 flush draw. It's like his hand's not even that good, really. It's the kind of sick thing about it. And he still has 2 guys to act behind him. So he's going to get in 250 big blinds here. Either get it in like, so he's 68%. So against Krmont's, whatever, let's not talk about that. You know, when you call, this is what happens when you call a 4-bet. When you 3-bet and call a 4-bet with this hand, is that you get into situations where your variance is super high. And this is one of those spots. So he gets it in, and he ends up winning. Krmont actually ends up chopping, so maybe it was a good 4-bet. They got some dead money in the pot. They got $1,700 dead money in the pot from the other guys pre-flop. But yeah, I don't think I don't like his 4-bet. Krmont, bro. Really? Real? These made up hands? So this hand is between the Dun-Fi guy, one of the people, I don't know, Dun-Fi, I don't know who he is. Probably like, who could he be? I don't know. Some aggressive guy from, I'm not sure who he could be. So he's really, really deep. He seems to be really deep from the hands I've seen this week. Plays, like I said, I think he plays pretty well. So Krmont 3-bets with 2, 6, 7, 2, 6, 7. He must have been. What leads someone to do? Is it coke? Is it cocaine? Is it can you even play drugs? Can you even play on heroin? I've never tried that one before. If you're on K, if you're recovering, if you're coming down from some drugs, you'd probably play like this. So I don't think he's like playing on drugs. I think he's like coming down from like a drug. Or he did the drug the night before. Like he played a lot that day, lost a bunch of money, or just had high variance, like ordered a couple Argentinian hookers, and then did some drugs with them, or something. I don't know. Krmont, you need to come on the podcast, man. We need answers. Don't fucking lie to us. Don't lie to the listeners of the podcast. We want to know what's happening with you, buddy. So anyways, Krmont 3-bets, 2, 6, 7, 9, with the 2, 9 of hearts. He gets 4-bet by ace, ace, king 6, and Krmont decides to call. I think this is where, I think this is the second error of the hand. On the flop, he flops one of the better flops for his hand somehow, bottom pair, with a backdoor wrap. And he decides, and Dun-Fi flops, just over pair, backdoor flush draw. Dun-Fi bets pot. Now I think Krmont made another error in this hand. He checks calls. The turn, he turns a wrap. And now this is where I think Krmont made a good play. So somehow if we get to the turn and we turn the wrap, there's like a 2% chance, maybe bigger than that, Dun-Fi might just fold this turn. Or he might call with like ace, king, queen, jack with a flush draw and we get in ahead. Holy shit, Krmont's a genius. So he goes all in here. And Dun-Fi calls, and they run it once, and Dun-Fi wins. But maybe Krmont's like on another level. He's sick. I guess if you're calling this hand pre-flop, you probably should call this flop, right? I mean, there's like so many turns you can just pot all in with nothing. But the sick thing is, when you make the 2 pair, they don't see it coming. That's like the sick thing about 2, 6, 7, 9. Usually when you play a big pot with 2, 6, 7, 9, and you make 2 pair, like they never put you on it, and you always win a big pot. He might be a genius. Might be a genius. Krmont here. Chance we got left here. Let's not talk about Lottie running down the cap there. Wow, that hand sucks for Krmont. That's sad. Okay, let's talk about this hand. So Bianca, very legendary No, nah, let's not get overboard. Not legendary. A tier. An ever-changing tier. Sometimes higher tier, sometimes lower tier, but just like a tier of fish. Like somewhere in the middle, middling, higher, upper, lower. Depends what's going on that day. So Bianca opens ace-ace, Krmont, tricky Krmont, 3-bets, queen jack 2-4, double suited, on the button, in the on position. Like I said, you can never go wrong with 3-betting any hand. 3-bets, Bianca. I always have aces versus them, though. I guess they fold the other times. Yeah, I guess we just don't see the hands where they keep folding to them. So Bianca 4-bets, ace-ace, queen jack. Krmont calls, and like I said, ooh, you make two pair, they never put you on it. Silly flops, bottom 2 pair, a monster. And he decides to just call the c-bet from Bianca. I guess, I don't know. Like, why don't you, probably should go all in here. I think you get it in against, you get all in versus the hand that he has, like aces with no flush draw, with no backdoor flush draw. And maybe he wants, I think it might be a little ambitious to think that Bianca might have like a ace, king, queen, jack, and then just barrels off like a random turn. But I think he turns enough equity on turns where I think like it's okay to get that hand to fold. But also, Krmont probably just wants to. I don't think you need to worry about like balancing here on this flop. Like some hands you're calling with that are like some type of strong hand too. Krmont calls, and the turn counterfeited, sad day. Bianca checks, and Krmont checks back. And on the river, Bianca pwns the soul. What a sick fuck. I don't know what Bianca's doing, man. It's 1,100 into 3K. Just getting Krmont to try to bluff with a flush draw. I mean, the straight draw gets there. I guess he doesn't put Krmont in a straight draw. Guess he puts him on a flush draw. Krmont, I don't think a tier is betting 11.25 to fold for $2,400 more here ever. Like no tier does that. So I think he folds his bluffs. Like, hey, I mean, can you call here? I can't call here. Can you call? Like, what's he betting? I'd be really confused if he's betting here. Is he betting aces? I wonder if he ever bluffs. I think he just checks kings. He probably bluffs with like his rundowns. I don't have anything because that's what tiers do. So, I mean, I guess you could call. I don't know. Can you call? I think I like if I had to choose like what I'd like best, I would like calling or folding 1, calling 2, raising all in 3. Okay, yeah, I think that's all right. Let's play, buddy. Couple more hands here. This hand, I don't know. I don't even talk about this hand. Lottie does something fucking crazy and wins a $12,000 pot. He gets in 277 big blinds with ace jack 9-6 against the fish 7-7 and wins. Lottie, man, how does he do it? He's the man. I love him. Love you, Lottie. And oh my God, we have the throwback hand. Ooh, it's sexy too. But what are we getting at here? I did tell about a story. I'd say I'll give you part 1 of the story, right? So I said I would share the story, and it's a rage story that leads up to how I lost, how I had my biggest losing day, $120,000 in a hotel room, laying on a bed, and how I ended up losing like $500,000 in a span of like 2 weeks, maybe less. So, anyways, I'm in Vancouver, and it's September. Me and Stinger had a place together for a couple weeks. And I was just like running absurd, winning a lot of money. I was up like 250K for the month. I decided to celebrate. So decided to celebrate and get in touch with a friend of mine who introduces me to another group of friends. I go out raging with this group of friends. With this group, I end up meeting a girl. We'll call her. I don't know. Let's not call her anything. So we'll call her the girl. So me and the girl, we hit it off. We both really enjoy one specific thing, and we enjoy it together. I don't want to get into the guts of the story because this is going to make for a really good story like 4 years from now when I know it's legal to talk about these types of things. But somehow we end up, I think Stinger actually went back home to Florida at this point. So I had my apartment to myself, and me and the girl came over, and I was supposed to move out like 4 days later. I was moving to Australia. Australia in like 4 days or something, 5 days. And so she comes over, and she just never leaves, you know. She stays for a couple days. We go to went to a Madonna concert, and like fucking spirit hoods, tank tops, bright colors. Yo, we were so fucked up. Oh my god. And I didn't play any poker during this time. But at some point in time, we ended up at the Four Seasons for like a week or two. I don't remember. It was like a while. Probably longer than should have happened. And I'm leaving out some really fun details. Like, I don't want to say that. It makes me seem kind of... She was really sexy. She's really attractive. Sorry, Aaron, if you're listening to this. But she was attractive, you know? What other kind of girl would I just spend like 2 weeks with doing stuff with? And actually, you know what's funny is Twitter famous stars Reg Problems actually made a guest appearance in the hotel room that me and her were staying in. I can't remember why he came over, but he wanted me to give him some stuff, and I told him for his own safety, I will not. And I think he ended up leaving. Look, thank God for him. I don't want him to get started down that path I was on right then and there. But at some point in time, I decided to start playing poker during all this, like laying on the bed. It was in between when she was sleeping, because I loved it because it was like, can I say this? Well, what did Shaniac talk about? He talked about smoking crack in like a podcast. Is he in jail yet? Anyways, yeah, so you're not thinking clearly, you're cuckoo, you know, you're kind of all out of whack. And I don't even remember this. I looked at my hold'em manager. I lost $120,000 in one day. And let's get into the rest of the hands. Part two next week. Part two next week, or the next podcast, part two. We'll talk more about that. So we got 2 more hands here, then we're going to wrap it up. So first hand between Krmont. Man, I feel bad for Krmont. Plays against Dun 5, 300 big blinds deep. Dun 5 opens the button with 3-4, 10-7. Krmont 3 bets with 8 double suited aces. Dun 5 calls. Dun 5, they both flop a flush. Krmont flops the nut flush. Dun 5 flops a flush 7 high flush with a gutter. So a straight flush draw. Straight flush. Krmont uses the pot size. So he bets pot here. Dun 5 calls. Seems fine. Turn. What a sad, tragic turn. So he bets pot again. And obviously representing an ace-high blocker or the ace-high flush or like a king-high flush. Because I'm sure he is betting really aggressive in this spot, so he's probably going to have some jack-high flushes, some 10-high flushes, top set, top 2 pair, who knows? Bunch of weird hands. So he bets again. The Dun 5 calls with the straight flush, ready to pony it up. And on the river, the board pairs. So any 5-6 queen 5 set of queens, queen 6, 6 floor, they're all winning now. So Krmont bets pot again, which, I mean, obviously you see the dynamic when if he thinks he should be betting pot here, which I don't think it's bad. I think Dun 5 probably calls like king high flush, jack high flush. I think he has the full houses semi at a decent enough frequency though. So I don't necessarily know if betting pot's the best plan here, but I mean, it's sad because he's never bluffing here. But, you know, what's $593 or more? Bet calls, and this is the hand. Can I think you can play it any differently? I mean, you never bet calling the river here and winning, but yeah, probably just bet a bit smaller on the river. Last hand, very legendary hand here. Can we zoom in here anymore? Let's see. Can we see that? All right. So this hand is between. I think we can see this hand. Yeah, we can. This hand is between a very old hand posted this week in 2009 at 501,000 pot limit Omaha. Man, those were the days. 501K ran all the time. This hand, 218,200 big blinds deep. So we don't get to see Patrick's hand, but Ziigmund 3 bets with 5, 6, 7, 8 double suited. Good. Patrick calls. The flop, Ziigmund flops middle pair and a rat. He bets again, and Patrick calls. There's flush draw on the flop. And the turn brings a backdoor flush draw. Actually, no, this hand's standard. I'm not sure why I wanted to show this hand. I thought it was interesting. I thought I saw Patrick's hand before. But yeah, so Ziigmund bets the turn again when he makes the nuts. Then he calls, and on the river, he bets pot, and Patrick calls. This hand's actually interesting. Never mind, I'm sorry. I've been wasting anybody's fucking time with this hand. This hand's like boring. Yeah, don't waste time. What's this hand? 8,000 deep. Okay, wait, this hand's more fun. What's going on here? Wait a second, this hand's way more fun. Why didn't I show this hand originally? Gus Hansen, what a fucking legend, man. What a guy. Down $107 million online poker, but, you know, he has sex with a lot of women. So, you like, balance pros, cons. Can you not lose the money and still have sex with the women, or do you have to lose the money and then, I don't know how it works in his world, but let's look at this hand. So they're 80,000 deep at 501K. What a great day. Gus Hansen, the Krmont of 2009. The Durr, a little bit of Krmont, and man, Krmont would have been in. I think Krmont makes like he's like Phil Guffon right now. He's running around at once. He's up $12 million in online poker right now. I think if he was playing in these games. So Gus 3-bets King Queen 9-2 double suited. Durr calls with Queen 9-8-3, 80 big blinds deep. The flop, Gus bets pot. Durr flops up top pair, bad straight draw, and Gus Hansen flops top pair with another better straight draw. Backdoor diamonds. Bet pot. Yeah. The turn. What the hell's happening here? The turn they get it in on the 3. The turn they get it in on the 3. Now, I don't. We really need to have a throwback podcast where we just look at some of these hands. Now, I don't really know too much to say about these hands, but so wow, or I guess Durr gets it in good. Yeah, I guess that's it. I don't have anything else to say about these fucking hands. What the hell's going on here? Krmont. I'm so sad Krmont didn't play back then. He's up. He's a millionaire right now. Maybe he's a millionaire already. I don't know. That's going to be it, guys. Thanks for joining me on this podcast. This is Joeingram1. We're going to try to be back next week. I like doing these. We're going to try to get back next week. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. And we'll have part 2 of that story I started a bit ago. That's it. Thanks, guys.